Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We are delighted to have a discussion about short, real stories. And on the 13th annual OUTshine Film Festival coming to Fort Lauderdale, October 14th to the 24th. So now we have joining us from three shorts from Silent Boys, Reka Valerick, the director, from Coded, producer Connor Fedding Smith, and from Open Dialogues, director Freddie Rodriguez and Jeff Rusnak, joining us to talk about these wonderful shorts that we're going to have in competition on our film festival starting next week. So just I wanted to remind you that we have the festival sponsored by Gilead Sciences, Broward County Cultural Division, and our main sponsors for the festival. So, and the department open. So let's start with the conversation. Just wanted to welcome you all. Thanks for joining us, and we're having our directors and producers joining us from different parts of the world. So let's just pose a general question, since we are having these wonderful shorts that are very reflective of our community. What was each of your inspiration? What take you to make this short to bring to our festival? Starting with Open Dialogues, for example.
Okay, I guess I'll start, since I'm with the Art and Culture Center of Hollywood, and we had an opportunity through grant funding to do a project related to coming out narratives, or it was really through the Broward Pride Initiative of Community Foundation of Broward. So I had this idea of doing almost like a Bergman-esque kind of thing, of really being very tight shots of individuals sharing their coming out narrative. And the original concept really was based on a lot of filmmakers now, or artists actually, are working in moving image. And we just felt like that this is more accessible and available than maybe 10 years ago in terms of making film. So we felt like it was possible to do something without really kind of elevating to what we ended up with the film. So we got Freddie, fortunately, to direct, and Freddie took what was a fairly basic concept of intimate storytelling and created really the cachet of a film, which we shot in black and white, and I think to great effect. And Freddie gave an idea that we had and executed it with some artistry that I believe surpassed our original conception of Open Dialogues. And it's basically 7 coming out narratives of a Broward County residents. And the idea was to create almost like a dinner conversation, an intimacy space where people were talking almost to one another, and also to the audience in an intimate way, where you were really compelled to be put in a listening space and a non-judgmental space, and to really hear people tell their story and how they've empowered themselves in a society that has often marginalized them.
Wonderful. So how about you, Connor? Tell us about your motivation to bring in Coded to the screen.
Sure. Yeah. So we made this film in partnership with Procter & Gamble Films, who had been looking into their archive and noticed that there were a lot of early advertisements that, perhaps slipped under the radar back in the 1920s or 10s, the turn of the century. But that if you look at them now, they look like pretty gay. Like they look like some men that are in love with each other, or they're women that are staring longingly at each other, and that there was a story to these ads that wasn't being told. And so Procter & Gamble worked in partnership with Imagine Documentaries, who brought on board Delirio Films, and director Ryan White, his producing partner Jessica Hargrave, and I. And we started kind of putting the pieces together Ryan, Jessica, and I had worked together on Apple's Visible Out on Television, which was a history of LGBT representation on television across 5 episodes. And we'd started in the 1950s, and we'd really been interested in the time before that. And so this film was a way to look into queer visibility in the 1920s during the Depression, and so we looked at that and we started researching, and we found the story of J.C. Liondecker, who was the most sought after illustrator in the golden age of American illustration, at a time when illustration was really the most powerful visual storytelling medium. The Saturday Evening Post was the most popular magazine of its time, and Liondecker did more covers for that magazine than anyone else, including Norman Rockwell, who was his friend and mentee. And as we learned more and more about Liondecker, we saw that he had a gay life that was, and a story that was untold, a 50-year love story with his partner, model, and muse, Charles Beach, who was the inspiration for Lionendecker's most famous ad campaign, the Arrow Collar Man, and he became the first sex symbol of his time. So the more we learned, the more we knew that this was a story that would be perfect for a documentary and could relay some of the kind of deep-seated themes of the struggle for LGBTQ equality that we're still dealing with today.
Perfect. Yes. So let me bring Reka Valeric, the director of Silent Voice. He's joining us from France. His camera is off, but you can hear his voice. And Reka, we wanted to thank you for bringing this wonderful short to our attention. And obviously, the subject matter is very sensitive right now with the current climate in Russia, and particularly in Chechnya. So tell us about it. How did the initiative started for you to bring this story to film and to the attention of broader audiences, please?
It started 4 years ago when I met my protagonist, Kavaj, and we went with my team to Russia and to Chechnya. And when we saw everything what was happening there, I didn't want to do a very journalistic film, and I wanted to do something very intimate. And when I met this protagonist, I knew that he was the right one to tell this story, even if he could not talk and even if he could not film his face. And I tried to make a very intimate film, but with very universal storytelling.
Wonderful. So let's bring all of us. And actually, I wanted to talk to Freddie Rodriguez, the director of Open Dialogues. Freddie, how do you pick the characters that you brought to the screen, and how do you pick this very diverse cast of individuals, and how was the selection? Can you tell us about it?
Actually, I think that's probably a better question for Jeff. What I did was I added to the cast. I brought in Omar and some other names to bring in more diversity than what they had initially, and that was it. I think the Art and Culture Center had some definite people in mind, and then I think Jeff played a big part in who was part of the cast, and I just added to it, really.
Okay, so I was actually very impressed this week. There was an article in the Miami Herald by Freddie Rodriguez. I don't know if you guys read it, but talking about the current environment in South Florida and how wonderful it's becoming for filmmakers and to fund films locally. I wanted you to tell us, since you are the local filmmakers and the local short competing in our festival. Tell us how it is, how it applies to you, how easy or how hard it is for films to be funded locally currently in South Florida.
Are you directing the question to me?
Either one of you, whoever wants to feel more,
Well,
capable.
I think after Moonlight, Miami was kind of like put on the map. I think what happened was South Florida was always a backdrop to LA and New York films, and there wasn't a real sense of like stories came from here. So I think the dynamic has shifted where it's like Miami has stories to tell, just like Los Angeles and New York, and there's a lot of filmmakers here that want to tell those stories. So I think Moonlight kind of put that on the map as like, wow, you can have an Oscar-winning film that isn't necessarily just a series of Miami backdrops, and is a story that is about the city and people in the city. And I think that's kind of changed the tone and the conversation. So there's interest now, and there's traction, which is important, and you see it happening.
Yeah, no, I think it also takes a local film festival to be the platform for
Absolutely.
you guys to show this. So
Absolutely.
we're
Absolutely.
very proud.
And a lot of the local film festivals, you guys, everybody else, has really opened the door for us to be able to show our content. Because it wasn't that Miami didn't have filmmakers, is that Miami had filmmakers that were talented that were moving to other places and then not making Miami films. So now there's that other option, which is we can stay here, make movies about ourselves, and do them well, and show them on platforms locally and nationally and internationally.
Yeah, no.
Can I
Sure.
add just something? I'm native to South Florida, so I've been here the whole time when we've talked about creating a film community here, film culture, filmmaking culture. And I think one of the things, I think technology is always a driver of how things are made possible. And when I was a little bit younger, I wrote some scripts, and I had a friend, and we were putting together an idea for a film, and she had friends in LA, and that was the only way anything was going to get done through that. And she ended up having a baby instead, and we all moved on to different parts of our life. But I think the technology has made, and just the way Open Dialogues, the way we conceived of it was, we felt the technology is available for people to make films and to distribute films in a way that used to be much, much harder. So film feels more available and accessible. My daughter, who's 16, she wants to go into film, and I don't discourage that. I tell her, if you get ideas, if you have a great idea, and you're excited and you work at it, you'll suffer and starve for a while, but you can do it. You can make film. And that article that Renee had in the paper the other day was just a revelation to see that there is so much film being made, and and I think South Florida actually is a place where there are stories upon stories upon stories. And you alluded to how we selected our cast for Open Dialogues, and we had 7 stories. We get it on 50, we get it on 100. There's that much diversity here.
Yes.
And we really were just so many rich opportunities to tell stories that aren't being told. And I think the other thing that's happening now in our culture through what's happened in the social justice arena is that the stories that have been ignored or denied throughout our history, just what we're talking about with Coded, that story was not told back 60, 70, 80 years ago. But now the space for telling all the stories is available. And I think between that and the technology, I think we're just in a wonderful time for people who want to make films to make their film.
Yeah, no, I'm totally supportive of what you're saying, and how glad to see that you are part of this new wave of film being brought back to South Florida, and to develop local talent and give them the platform to put their work out there. So let's talk to the guy in LA, where probably this is not the biggest issue, but Connor, your film is the animation in the film is amazing. I just wanted to talk about that. Not surprisingly, the film is about an animator and an advertisement, a historical figure. How to me, it's surprising to know that Liondecker is not so well known in history. And do you know what's been done to rehabilitate or to restore his legacy, not only in the LGBT community, but in history period? So,
yeah, the animation in Coded is really amazing, and that's thanks to Danny Madden, who led the team with Ornana, really talented team of animators who brought the aspects of Lionendecker's life to the screen that we couldn't find via archival materials. You know, a lot of his story happened behind closed doors, and it was deliberately not public. It wasn't the kind of thing that was shared. His long relationship with Charles Beach, and that's because it was done to protect him from losing his job, to protect him from violence and ostracization. And these are things that we in the LGBTQ community know quite well. So Ryan always had the idea of Lionendecker's story coming to life through animation, and I think it was really cool to get to have that for an illustrator. And so Danny and his team were able to look at the ways that Liondecker drew and the style that he used, and to emulate that through their work. And in terms of Lionendecker's story and his lack of notoriety, one of the people that we interview for our film, Judy Goffman Cutler, is the director of the National Museum of American Illustration. And she is a collector and an art dealer. And so it's been her life's work to collect American illustrators like Norman Rockwell, like J.C. Leyendecker, and to tell their stories. And so she is someone, among others, who are collecting and showcasing classic American illustrators. Another one is George Lucas, who's opening a museum out here on the West Coast, and he's a Leyendecker collector as well. A lot of people who are cinematic storytellers look to these kinds of illustrations as inspiration because they were this great way of visual storytelling. So yeah, I mean, I would have to say Judy is our best example of who's keeping these stories alive. And it was really wonderful to have her participate in the film.
Her participation is very crucial to the film, so it's very valuable. Let me talk to Reka once again about his short silent voice. Reka, as we know, Kavach has to leave Chechnya to go to Belgium to escape from the persecution locally in Chechnya. Has he been granted refugee status in Belgium? Or can you talk about this? If you can, or if you cannot disclose that, I will understand. But could you let us know what's going on with his case?
No, he didn't have his refugee status in Belgium, and he went to another country, actually. Now he's in another country.
Okay, what is there an organization in Belgium that actually is helping these oppressed LGBT members in Chechnya to escape the persecution?
No, the organization in Europe, they don't really help to escape, but they help when they arrived, actually. So more to integrate and to find solution when they already in Europe, but they're not helping them directly to escape.
Okay. It's very crucial in the story. His contact, his communication with his mother, or his lack of communication with his mother, but it's very crucial to your film. Is he speaking to his mother now? Was that resolved? Are they talking?
Yes, recently they start to talk, but it's still difficult. And Kavach, he didn't recover completely, so his voice is still not completely back as it was before, so he's still not able to communicate as before. So he don't communicate too much with his mother, to be honest.
Okay. According to the story, he needed to be able to speak, to be present at the trial to claim his case, right? He claims his refugee's case. Was he able to do, and how did he do it if he's still having issues with his vocal cords?
No, he was not able to do this in Belgium, so that's why he left. Now he's in another country, where in Europe also, where it was more easy, and he received his refugee status in this country because it was more easier, and they just look all the proofs that he's a real refugee, and he wrote his story, so he don't needed to talk about this. So they understood his case.
I get it. We're familiar here from the little that we know about the oppression of the LGBT community in Chechnya from, this very well-known documentary called Welcome to Chechnya that is being shown here in the States. Has there been any improvement to the LGBT community in Chechnya or for that matter in Russia? But I guess we know the answers to Russia. How that's changed in the last few years? Has it getting worse? Is it getting worse currently? Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. To be honestly, I don't think any film can change anything in Russia and in Chechnya in general. So no, it's any film about this subject didn't help. Actually, it's increased the persecution. So actually, it's played against to this community. To be honest with you, but nowadays in Chechnya, people still disappearing because they are LGBT, but not like it was like 4 years ago. But it also maybe because we don't read about this anymore in newspapers, but it's still happening, but not in that level how it was before.
Okay, I'm assuming that Kavash is no longer, or is he in contact with his brother?
No, of course he's not.
It's not. Okay. Okay. Have you shown your film in any other places? Has it been shown in Europe?
Of course, it was premiered in biggest festivals in Europe, and the film was shown in New York for first look in Moving Image Museum in Queens, and the film won the prize at Hot Docs in Toronto.
Wonderful. No, yeah, I'm not surprised. I think it's a wonderful short that you made. So it's wonderful that you brought it to our film festival. And you guys, Jeff, Freddie, Connor, tell me, what's the future for your shorts? Are you planning to show your film in other film festival? Has it happened? What's the reception? What has been the experience so far?
Go ahead, Connor.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So Coded has actually been acquired by MTV Documentary Films, and will be presented by them towards the end of this calendar year. So we're really excited to share it with a wider community. And we do have some other festivals that Coded will be a part of. And so we're really grateful for that as well.
Cool. That's awesome. Congratulations on the MTV thing. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Open Dialogues was made right before COVID hit. So we actually finished it in January, probably January, February. And then COVID hit and it kind of offset our film festival run. We did a kind of like light run. So now is when we're kind of going to start it up again. And this month, Jeff, I think we're at the Orlando Film Festival.
We are Orlando on the 30th and 31st, and then Fort Lauderdale, which showed us last year as a virtual, is bringing us back again this year.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we didn't really actually think of film festivals when we did the project. It was more like an art museum piece. And then kind of like the feedback was, oh, okay, let's start sticking this in festivals, and we've done okay. So we'll probably continue to go down that path.
Awesome. Well, any future plans, Reka? Just to wrap this up, let us know. Are you gonna make any other shorts in the future? Are you pursuing similar interests with refugees? Reka, let's start with you.
I'm making my first fiction film with the same producer. So it's going to be co-produced between France, Belgium. It's not a similar topics at all, so it's something brand new, but it will be set in Europe.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, good luck with your future project. How about Connor? Can you tell us?
Sure. Our team has got a lot of exciting stuff coming out. Ryan and Jessica are at work on a documentary about a robot that went to Mars, and that's a project with Amazon. Delirio Films has got a project coming out soon about Magic Johnson. Imagine Documentaries has a bunch of projects that are coming out. I've been working on a project about the Supreme Court case, Fulton versus Philadelphia, and the state of foster care for LGBTQ youth and adults. So we hope we'll see you again.
You're going to be busy, it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Freddie and Jeff? Freddie, tell us.
Well, together, and Jeff can talk about that, together we're shooting Open Dialogues 2. And Jeff can talk about that. And I'm also developing a short film, which is a Hialeah horror film, and a feature film, which was funded by OUTshine Arts, and that's in development, which is called Project Ballroom.
Hialeah in the house.
Hialeah's in the house always.
About time. So we are beginning, we've been kind of on a hiatus with COVID, but we are going to have production next month on a second Open Dialogues film. And this the first one was pretty easy. It was just coming out stories. The second one, we are going to be taking on race in South Florida and in the United States, a film called Black Voices, Black Stories. And we are going to try as best we can to create constructive dialogue around some of the issues that I think the George Floyd event really brought to light in this country, and try and have an honest conversation about race and social justice with the next film.
Wonderful. Hey, we wish you all the best, and all of you and my South Florida people. We really would love to see more production coming out of South Florida. So we want to thank you all for the opportunity to show your films with our film festival, and we want to remind you the film festival starts next Thursday, October 14th through the 24th, and you can check this on OUTshinefilm.com. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Gilead Sciences, Broward County Cultural Division at Culture Builds Florida. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the future with your new projects, okay? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, OUTshine.
Take care.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice.
We were driving, and this van was driving right up the back of our car and shining the lights in and trying to push us off.
I think the perception is that it's still not accepted. It's still a heterosexual world that we live in.
How many people have took their own lives because they thought that God doesn't love them.
Within the next 2 weeks, I had a high-powered rifle shot through my home. Then we found a cardboard box taped to the bottom of my car.
Out of hating myself as much as society says I should, somehow I pulled myself out of that.
And 5 guys attacked a friend of mine. For someone to have that much animosity and hate, it was devastating.
If you haven't experienced something, it's hard to empathize with it.
When I was a little kid, I was terrified of coming out. And now I don't think twice about saying, yes, that's my husband.
I can open doors for my students that they tend to be more willing to walk through. And I can expose them to literature that will open their minds to all kinds of ways of being in the world.